Hey everybody, it's Tabitha and welcome back to my channel. Today, I want to discuss a few steps that happened in my mind that really transitioned me from struggling to actually moving forward. And it's really funny because as I was trying to write it all down and look at it, and there is one overarching theme that I see with all of them. And I really, I would like for you to see if you can catch it before I tell you. Okay? So, if you don't know my story, September 2023, I had a mental breakdown. It was a OCD breakdown. Did not know that's what it was. Thankful for Mark DeJesus. Within several months, I figured out that's what it was. But I wrestled for almost 2 years with it. It caused a tremendous amount of heartache in my life and the life of my family. And it was very difficult. Very difficult. So, long story short, I wound up at Honey Lake in Greenville, Florida. It's a Christian mental health institute. It's not like a hospital. It's a residential facility. Amazing facility. And the Lord absolutely placed me there because, it wasn't the therapy that got me anywhere while I was there, but it was the community and it was the way that God moved while I was there in me. There were several steps that occurred in my mind while I was there that really changed the trajectory of my life, okay? And actually catapulted me into recovery. In no certain order. I do remember, I wish I had wrote it down. I do remember at the time it felt very orderly. Like it felt very intentionally, one revelation really led to the other. But in no certain order, this is basically what happened. You guys, I was in terrible shape. At some point in time, I need to sit down and give my testimony video. It will be a very long video. And I will leave no stone unturned. I feel like God was extremely intentional in a lot of the things that I went through. And so I don't want to leave any of that out. And nevertheless, while I was there and before I was there, I would wake up at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning after it took me forever to go to sleep. And when I'd wake up, I would wake up in terror and have all these thoughts bombarding me. And I'd have to get up. There were many times where I had to get up and pace around the room and it was horrifying. It was terrible. It was terrible. And I'd pace around the room. And I would work through it. And the entire time I was dealing with my OCD, I guess I was like constantly trying to figure out what God was doing. Because I think that, and if I figured out what God was doing, I could actually endure it. And so I was constantly trying to figure it out. I remember the moment I was up in my room in the middle of the night and I said, Lord, I'm tired. I can't do this anymore. And I basically said, I'm jumping off the cliff. And either you're going to catch me or you aren't. It was not a confident yes. It was just a point where I could no longer keep doing what I was doing. I can no longer keep fighting. I was tired. I was tired. And here I am at a mental health institute. After 2 years of battling this, I was tired. And it wasn't getting better. And I didn't have an ounce of strength left in me anymore. I didn't have it in me to fight anymore. And I said, okay, I'm not fighting anymore. And it felt really risky. And at the moment, I would like to say that my faith was solid. I knew God was going to pull me through. In that moment, I wasn't 100% sure. I wasn't. But I know I had no choice. I had no choice. So I told the Lord, I'm jumping off this cliff, and either you're going to catch me or you're not. But I can't do this anymore. And honestly, looking back now, I know that's exactly what I needed to do the entire time. But sometimes we have to God will let you wear yourself out. I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay. During the daytime, I'd be walking around, and again, like I said, I would try to figure out what God was doing. Oh, I know what you're doing. I know what you're doing. You're doing this so I could do this. And of course, over time, that was actually reassurance seeking. Didn't realize it, but it gave me reassurance for a moment, but then the moment would pass. You know how that is. And that was actually what got me to Honey Lake, because nothing was reassuring me anymore. Nothing was giving me peace anymore. The Bible wasn't giving me peace. Me telling myself, God's got plans. It's okay. It's going to work out. God's got plans. None of that was bringing any peace to me anymore. And I was getting full of rage. And it wasn't like I was mad at God. I felt like a trapped animal, a caged animal that was like, I was about to lose my mind. While I was there, the moment that I did, at least, this is another revelation I had. Well, this is the second revelation I'll say. The first one, I jumped off the cliff. It's not really a revelation, but it was a revelation of, or at least a step of me releasing control and saying, I can't do this anymore. I'm not sure that you'll do it, but I just know that I can't. But I'm taking the risk. To me, it felt like a risk of giving it to you and saying, I'm not fighting this anymore. Okay? Then I come to the understanding. I'm like, it just hit me. Tabitha, if you could figure out what God was doing, He wouldn't be very, very big God. Would not be very big God. And so anytime the temptation to figure out what God was doing would come up, I wouldn't do it. I'd say, I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about that. I don't know what He's doing. He's a big God though. I'm not worried about it. What I didn't realize at the time was now that I'm talking about this, it's like I'm seeing even more. At the time, I didn't realize that me comforting myself with that was reassurance seeking. So I actually let go of that. Okay? Jumping off the cliff. Again, me letting go of control. And refusing to fight the battle in my own strength. Because I couldn't do it anymore. Another one. I don't know about tomorrow, because OCD always takes you to the future. That's what catastrophizing is. It's saying that if you don't deal with this now, this is what's going to happen. It is telling you the future with certainty. And it's never good. It's always bad. So the minute that my brain would go, what if is usually a future-based phrase. What if blah, 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 blah. I don't know. And I began to let go of whenever the what if would come up, and the what if would come up. And when I recognized, one, what if should be a major red flag. What if? If that phrase comes into your mind, what if? Immediately no. Immediately do not engage. Do not engage. What if? I don't know. So I took the words of Jesus seriously, where it said, don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow's got worries of its own. Worry about today. That helps me to stay present. And the minute my brain went to the future, I wouldn't go with it. I would not follow that train of thought. I would refuse to go there. Because I don't know. I don't know. And then another revelation that helped me to understand a little bit more was this. Any analogy that you look at in the Word of God that talks about, God shaping and molding us, it's a simple yielding. You got the potter and the clay. You got the vine and the branch and the vine dresser. You've got the goldsmith, the refining fire of the gold. And all of those things, what is God's position and what is your position? God is the potter. We are the clay. We are to yield to that. Okay? What does the clay do but yield to the hands of the potter? What does the branch do but yield to the hands of the vine dresser? The vine dresser is the one that comes in and knows what's wrong. Okay? Knows where to pluck and prune. And sometimes I don't know if you know anything about pruning, but a lot of times a plant will look really good and healthy, and you cut it almost all the way back, and it looks like you about killed the plant. But in all actuality, it looks good now, but if you don't prune it, it'll go straight up. And then depending on the plant, pepper plant, stuff like that, they'll go straight up, and then the weight of the fruit will make it fall over. But if you prune it at the bottom, you do initially cut off a lot of the plant, but then it encourages the plant instead to bush out, making it more fruitful, so it can bear more fruit. There's more branches, and it's sturdier. By the way, I gardened for a while. The Lord definitely worked through that to teach me some things. So, but the plant did nothing except, it had no choice. I'm sorry, but I'm cutting this. Anyway, nevertheless, sorry. And then the gold. Gold is in a pot. The goldsmith is very present. He's very present there. He controls the temperature of the fire. He watches it very carefully. The stuff that's not supposed to be there comes up. The impurities comes up to the surface. And then the Lord, or the goldsmith, swipes off the stuff off the top, the dross. I want you to notice in those three examples, who is doing what. It was this was one of the things that really set me free, was understanding that God was in control, and I am but to just have faith and believe. Just like Ephesians 2:8 says, we are his workmanship, or 2:10. We are his workmanship created in Christ Jesus, that he, for good works that he prepared ahead of time for us that we may walk in them. It is him that works in us to will and to work for his good pleasure. Like, we acknowledge that it's God working in us. It's not us. I use the analogy I use the analogy, and I probably stated it in another video, but your car breaks down or the check engine light comes on. And you're like, oh, I don't know what's going on here. I need to take it to the dealership. A responsible person would take it to the dealership and not just ride around with a check engine light on, or the car's going to break down. By the way, takes it to the dealership or a car shop, auto mechanic shop. The auto mechanic plugs in the diagnostic tool, sees what code the vehicle is throwing, and then based off that should know what to work on, should know what to fix. I want you to understand, I want you to see the relationship of the car owner and the dealership. And by the way, the car owner nor the auto mechanic looks at the car because it's throwing a check engine light and said, well, you're not a car. You're not a car. There's a problem, and now you're not a car. Or totals the car out and says, oh, well, check engine light comes on, throw it away. Throw it away. You might as well take it to the dump. That's not what happens. Okay? The person driving the car gets the check engine light, and they take it to the auto mechanic. The auto mechanic figures out the problem. The auto mechanic fixes it because he knows how to work on cars. You do not. Now, granted, that's taken, let's pretend if you do know how to work on cars that you don't, for the analogy's sake. You know what I'm saying? But you don't. You don't take it in your hands to fix it. You recognize there's a problem, and then you bring it to the person who knows how to fix it. And this is what, in the past, when I've prayed, I thought to know God's will, I had to know God's will. Like, I had to be certain. I had to know, and I had to have God speak to me. And this is where God has increased my faith here. Okay? And ultimately, have you figured out the theme? I'll restate them very quickly. Live for today. You live in today. You live in this moment. And you trust God's guiding your steps. God is bigger. He's the one that makes and molds. You're jumping off a cliff. Okay? And because you can't do it. And you're gonna trust that God's gonna catch you. If you could figure out what God was doing, He would be a very big God. Theme I noticed here in all of these things put together is this right here. You are not in control, but God is, and He's a good God. So I had a lack of understanding before all this. When I would pray, I'd pray, Lord, I would be like, I'd pray and ask God for something. And I would hope that He would do it. And I'd be like, well, I know He's able. But what if He says no? What if He says no? There was such a lack of understanding on my part before all this about God and who He was and His character and what faith actually was. And through this, God taught me. He changed my life and perspective. And so now I understand that when I come to God, there are certain things that are promised to us in Scripture. So we don't have to beg for them. We receive them in faith. And this is not a anti-word of faith, anti-prosperity gospel. That is bogus nonsense. However, because faith is believing, faith is not a force. Faith is not grabbing hold and faith is humility, understanding your position and God's position, and understanding understanding your position and God's position is a result of true faith, which is believing God is who He says He is and He'll do what He says He'll do. So if there's a promise in the Word, you don't have to beg Him for His promise. You take it by faith. Because in the Word, Romans 8 tells us that we are no longer, that's a journal. Romans 8 tells us that we have not received the spirit of slavery, but we've been adopted I'm really just wrecking this morning. Hang with me. I'm almost done. Okay? Hang with me. You still with me? For you did not receive this is 8:15. Romans 8:15. For you did not receive the spirit of slavery to fall back into fear, but you have received the spirit of adoption as sons, by whom we cry, Abba, Father. There is promises in this word, and you only have them by faith. Okay? So one of the promises I stand on is in 1 John 5, and it tells us that if we ask anything according to his will, we know he hears us. And if we know he hears us, we know we have what we receive what we've asked for. How do you know you're praying in God's will, though? How do you know? Read the Bible. Read the Bible. James 1:5 tells us that if we need wisdom, all we got to do is ask him. And he'll give it to us abundantly without reproach. And that's a promise. So I stand on this. I stand on that promise. So if I'm coming to him, asking him, praying for something he's already promised in his word, then I don't have to worry about whether he's going to say yes or not, because he's already promised it to me. Right? He's already promised it to me. So like Abraham with Isaac, Abraham didn't understand what was going on when God asked him to sacrifice Isaac, but he already had the promise that his descendants would come through Isaac. So even though what God was telling him didn't make sense, he continued to do it with the expectations that God would do something. He didn't know what it would be. Again, God is a big God, and if I could figure out what he's doing, he wouldn't be a very big God. But he didn't know what it would be, but he even expected that he'd raise him from the dead, if that were necessary. Because he already had a promise that he received multiple times, that his heir would come through Isaac. You see what I'm saying? And then when it comes to other things in life that are less clear, more nuanced decisions, or even for healing or whatever, then when you pray, you come to God pleading as a child of God. You continue to ask, but you understand, but even in that, you come to him with a heart posture of trust that he will do what's right, that he is just, he is fair, that he loves you, and that whatever his answer is, it's the right thing, even if it may not look good at the time. So just like with OCD, I begged God, please take my thoughts, please deliver me. And at the time, it felt like he was being cruel because he said no. But now, hindsight being 2020, I know that he loved me. I know that because he loved me enough to allow me to suffer momentarily so that I would reap the fruit of righteousness because of it. So there, I can trust. I learned to trust. Ultimately, let me tell you about this list here. All these things on this list boil down to is this right here. The character and the nature of God. It all boils down to understanding and trusting the character and the nature of God. That he is good, he is loving, he is just, he is righteous, he is holy. But when he said that all those who believe upon the Lord will be saved, that's what he meant. That's what he meant. And when he said all these other things, if you ask for wisdom, I'll give it to you. That's what it meant. And I don't have to worry about it because he is who he says he is. And he'll do what he says he'll do. And he promised to never leave me nor forsake me. So even if it feels like it, I know it's not true. My feelings are lying. Because the word tells me. So you see how there was a progression of me letting go of control and learning that I don't have to, because I didn't understand. I'd be so anxious about walking in the perfect will of God. I'm so scared of messing up that I'm doubling into myself instead of learning to go, I'm trusting you. Does that make sense? I'm scared I'm going to mess up. I'm scared of this. I'm scared of this. Instead of like you're putting the pressure on yourself where the pressure should be on him. And you're like, Lord, I want to do your will. I know I don't know the future, but you know what? I used to would think if I prayed hard enough, he would tell me this is what I want you to do, and then I would do it. But that's really immaturity, because it ultimately, I know the desire there is good that says, I want to do the will of God. And I don't want to mess it up. But if you could mess it up, you would. Let me just make that clear right now, by the way. If you could mess it up, you would. Just so you know. Because I am not here because of my own strength. I know that I am only here because of him. Period. Because if I could have screwed it up, I'd have been screwed it up, y'all. Been screwed it up. Okay. Period. Anyway. It all boils down to understanding and trusting God. Like in a childlike way. I don't have to know, just like he told Abraham to go. Abraham didn't know where he was going, but he just knew he had a command from God to go. And so he trusts God would get him there. So you see how we think that in our knowing here where we're going, that then we can walk in faith. But that's often not what it looks like. Faith is trusting God to lead you, even when you don't know where you're going. And when you finally get a hold of that, y'all, it will literally change your life. Because now I don't come to God with anxiety, begging him to tell me what to do. I give it to him and say, Lord, my desire is to please you. And you've promised in your word that if I trust you with all my heart and lean not on my own understanding, in all my ways acknowledge you, you will make my path straight. So that tells me I don't have to know. I just have to trust the one who does know and trust that he guides me. Romans 8:28 tells us that he works all things out for the good of those that love him and are called according to his purpose. All things. All things. Okay? And don't let your OCD snatch on. Well, what do I do? Nope. Learn to trust the Lord. And I'm not the only this is not just an OCD struggle, by the way, guys. I think every Christian at some point in time struggles with it. But we just learn it the way we learn it. You know what I'm saying? I'm rambling at this point. I digress. These are the things that completely shifted me into recovery, by the way. And again, the running theme with all these things was counting on God and his nature and getting my eyes off myself, thinking I had to be strong and pull myself out and it's my fault, and like get my eyes off myself and get my eyes on him. Keep your eyes on him, the author and finisher of your faith. Okay? I hope you all have a wonderful week. Love you, mean it, bye.